afternoon, everybody. I'm Lisa Pietek, Regional Vice President for the Central Region, and I'm physically located in Michigan. And I bring that up because Michigan will play a somewhat significant role in this part of the presentation today. So let's take a look at a couple quotes that we have garnered for the presentation that really kind of talks about the current environment of cannabis, aka marijuana, in our presentation today. So as you know, cannabis is one of the oldest illegal substances known, but recently many states have gone through the decriminalization or legalization of cannabis. And this really has opened opportunities, not only economically and within the employment area, but also for higher education and the type of new programs that they are now offering. So today we're going to explore this in more depth, and I will just mention, as Bob shared at the very beginning, when you're thinking about the choices to make when starting programs, cannabis is definitely a program that you have to think about in terms of, is it a mission fit for your institution, and what are the significant either opportunities or ramifications for your institution as you think about this program offering. So what is the buzz all about for cannabis? And the legalization, as I mentioned, has really grown in the last 2 years. And at this time, 67% of Americans now support the legalization of cannabis, which is up 32% from 2010, and just a little bit, 18% from 1990. You know, this is really showing kind of the change in the way that we, not only in the United States, view this, but also globally, as Canada legalized cannabis throughout the provinces in 2018. Now, taking a look at this map, if you look at all of the states that are coded in the very dark hunter green, these are the 11 states that have actually legalized cannabis for recreational use. And this also includes Washington, D.C., and does now include Illinois. Even though it's not color-coded here, at the time the map was put together, Illinois was not legalized, but it is now. And actually, if you do some research even out there on Google and the web, you will find that within the first day of legalization in Illinois, $3.2 million was realized in retail revenue. So we are hearing this across the country as more and more states become part of the legalized movement. There's also an additional 33 states that have legalized marijuana for medical use, and you see those kind of in that Kelly green color on the map there. Now, whether they've legalized it for recreational use or medicinal purposes, you know, we still have to deal with the contradiction between state and federal laws, if you will. And so, although it's obviously still illegal at the federal level, there is an amendment out there called the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, which does prohibit federal prosecution of individuals who are still complying with their state medical cannabis laws, but it's still very much a murky area. So something that still has to be taken into account as economically and as an institution, as you pursue perhaps new program ideas, what that means on the legal front. So as you can imagine, this industry is growing like a weed. It is definitely big business. And as we can see here, the North American market for legal marijuana is expected to top 16 billion, and that's billion with a B, last year. And it's going to continue to grow from here. So we are predicted to see upwards of 47 billion by 2027, which, now that we're in 2020, does not seem that far away, and possibly even up to 80 billion by 2030. Now, one of the most fastest growing areas within this market segment is the CBD oil market. And there's a couple reasons that it is the fastest growing. Number one is there's less legal issues around CBD oils, and the part of the CBD process is really about extraction. So what they're doing is they're extracting the THC, which pulls out the psychoactive effects of marijuana. And as you have probably seen in retail settings like the mall, there are now kiosks everywhere. There are countertops at various retail stores that are offering CBD oil. And so you can see there that sales are predicted to reach anywhere from 1.3 to 22 billion just over the next couple of years. And not only just retail revenue, but the amount of tax revenue that is being generated from this industry. The US marijuana industry is forecasted by 2030 to generate 17.5 billion in tax revenue. So, you know, that's all good and fine on the revenue side, but there are some obstacles within this industry, particularly around banking and the transactions, the financial transactions that partake as a part of this retail industry in cannabis. And so there are some solutions out there like blockchain-based transactions and also record-keeping solutions such that are being provided by MTRAC. And MTRAC's, I would say, main value proposition is that they are providing a compliant solution for these electronic transactions. And they just set up a payment platform for the state of Louisiana back in August of 2019. And they are now working as of December to help dispensaries in the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan just legalized marijuana at the beginning of December, I believe, this past year. So there are solutions being provided, and not just in the banking and financial area, but also in the software area, robotics, automation that's happening, the growers and the industry amongst the growers that's happening, and then also transportation. So as we look at employment and how it is growing since this explosion of legalization, we can see that from data from New Frontier, there are 250,000 jobs that have been created that are directly involved with the handling of cannabis plants. And this could reach up to 414,000 potential jobs by 2021, which is only a year away. What we find from Glassdoor is that the median salary for someone in the cannabis field is around $58,000 annually. And this is a difference of 10% based on what the US workers on average we see as a whole. So there are some opportunities in terms of median annual salary there. Lastly, though, some states obviously are still concerned about the size of their operations. And so most of those that are coming to the market are continuing to stay as a small business. And they are doing that mostly because of the current regulation and the type of licensing qualifications that go into having an operation within this market segment. You can also see there, lastly, that there are some major metro areas from the states that have legalized in the last couple of years. We are not surprised by these large metro areas, and I would only anticipate as more states legalize, their metro areas will be a part of this list. So what kind of jobs are available in the area of cannabis? They're really divided into three segments, and that is service and retail, professional and technical, and labor and physical. And so a lot of these jobs, as you can imagine, are really entry-level positions that are common to many industries. You're going to see a lot of overlap from current employment type opportunities coming over into the cannabis segment. And so we're talking about industries or jobs, I should say, like delivery individuals. And this may go back to the unmanned aviation, right? We may see driverless delivery trucks for, cannabis going to retail dispensaries. Also harvesters and cashiers. And these jobs typically pay anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 on as an annual salary. But there are more advanced jobs as well that require a higher level skill set. And those are the ones that you see below as examples. So looking at someone who comes from the horticultural background, so as a botanist or a specialist within the horticultural segment. We see CEOs or high-level managers in the dispensary retail area, master extractors, which brings in your technical side, and then also getting into the culinary area where you have master chefs and how are they incorporating cannabis as edibles into a variety of dishes. So this gives you an idea of the wide range of opportunity for employment within the cannabis market. Now, what does this mean for higher education? Well, since 2017, we've seen cannabis entree into the higher education market with a few degree offerings, and we'll show that here to you momentarily what that list looks like. Since that time, additional courses, programs, and research has emerged on campuses across the country, and also non-accredited institutions as well. And there are many current program offerings that overlap, as I mentioned, into the cannabis market through those specializations. So you can see that on our visual here, graduates that are coming out from the business area, agricultural, law, public policy, and the medicine or healthcare area are finding opportunities within the cannabis market. One of the things I wanted to point out here under the research area is two examples. UC Berkeley, who has a cannabis research center that they opened last January, so a year ago at this time. And then Vermont's Medical Cannabis Center for Research and Education was launched, and that focuses on research and clinical applications for the medicines that are being used for therapeutic use. There is also, the piece that I mentioned earlier that you have to really think about the legal ramifications. And so an example of that is the University of Maryland. They, back in 2017, wanted to launch a training program for pharmacists and technicians that were working in the medical marijuana dispensaries. But at that time, due to legal concerns, they did not move forward. However, they came back to the market, and just last year, they did launch their training program, and it also included clinical care and science policy with it. And the classes are online, although the students do travel to the university a handful of times throughout the 2-year program, but they currently have 150 students enrolled in this program. So next we can see all of the new program announcements. There were more than 10 programs that were announced in 2018 and 19. And these are coming from public institutions, smaller private institutions. And so you can see here on this list, sorted by year, when they started, the degree level that they're being offered at, and even what I find interesting, the title of the program that they're using. Some are very creative. But this is where I mentioned earlier, it kind of is significant for the state of Michigan because Northern Michigan University was the first in the United States to launch a bachelor's degree program in medicinal plant chemistry in 2017. And this was even before cannabis was legalized in Michigan. We have another Michigan school in here, Lake Superior State University, which has 3 different types of program offerings at the associate and 2 at the bachelor's level that just came to market last year. So for some reason, Michigan is really on top of what they're doing here, and seems to be the place to be if you want to, learn more about cannabis and get a degree in that area. So here is an example of the Northern Michigan University degree, the Bachelor of Science in Medicinal Plant Chemistry. Again, as I mentioned, it was launched in the fall of 2017. And what's interesting here is we have these concentration areas coming from both science and business, kind of bringing together that multidisciplinary area. Again, the next program, Lake Superior State, and you can see here how they are providing a Bachelor of Science and then an Associate of Science, Bachelor of Science, both on the business side and again on the science side, if you will, the cannabis and chemistry. And so, you know, again, institutions are finding a creative way to bring resources that they currently have forward to be able to participate with offering degrees within this segment. And then lastly is Clark University. Here's an example at a graduate certificate level where they're not coming from, you know, the science aspect or the business aspect, but very much so from the regulatory part of this issue. And so they have a graduate certificate in regulatory affairs for cannabis control. And so, you know, as we look forward to this industry, on our last example here, Hocking College at an associate's level, you know, it's important to think about the opportunities that institutions have if it's a mission fit and it's a discussion that the institution can take on from a regulatory standpoint, that they are able to realize an opportunity within this segment to bring together multidisciplines from their institution to afford students an opportunity for a degree in this area. But as we mentioned, there are things you have to think about from the regulatory aspect. But again, an emerging market that is one that you definitely want to keep your eye on.